Welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. On behalf of OTC Markets, we are very pleased you've joined us for the Clean Energy and Renewables Conference. The next presentation of the day is from Waste Energy. Please note you may submit questions for the presenter in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view a company's availability for one-on-one meetings by clicking Book a Meeting. At this point, I am very pleased to welcome Scott Gallagher, Chairman, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Waste Energy, which trades on the OTCQB venture market under the symbol WAST. Welcome back, Scott.
Thank you, Lily. Appreciate it. And I'm excited to be here for the conference. I'd like to thank everybody who is joining us today on the call, taking some half hour or so out of your time to discuss the company and where we are. It's a very exciting time for us. I'm going to start with the disclaimer. You'll see that on the screen. That'll be on our presentation on our website. This entire presentation will be uploaded to our website, say by tomorrow, if you miss any part of it. So again, just good afternoon for everybody. Thanks for joining. We're going to jump right into it now. So essentially, Waste Energy, we built this company to take advantage of, we are building this company. We've went at it for 6 years now. To take advantage of a movement that has been building over the years, particularly on the waste side and relative to tires and plastic. 6 years ago, we weren't aware that the power needs of the country were going to accelerate the way that they have. But essentially, at this point, we and many other analysts are pretty much of the opinion we are in a power revolution between the rise of AI, data centers, blockchain, EVs, all that has led to the U.S. data center power demand alone is up 400% over the last 10 years and is expected to triple over the next 4. So at the same time, the world continues to produce roughly 1 billion waste tires a year, which is crazy, and most of it ends up buried in landfills. So a typical waste tire is roughly, again, it depends on the size of the tires, 50% or more petroleum. Plastic is the same, has a significant amount of petroleum, tires or more. So we targeted this business model several years ago when we really dug into the tire side and made it our mission that we found a business that we can build that can become very profitable, and we can actually do something positive by diverting all these tires, tons and tons, every day, every month, away from landfills, and then start providing a renewable power source to all these different markets. Particularly, as our journey took us, we landed in Midland, Texas, which was probably the best thing that ever happened to the company. Midland and the Permian Basin in particular, the Permian Basin is essentially the energy capital of the world by most accounts. The Permian Basin generates roughly 6 to 6.5 million barrels of oil a day. It's more than most countries produce. It accounts for roughly 40 to 45% of total U.S. oil production. But an interesting fact that's relevant to us, which is very relevant to our business model, is that Texas is by far, by a very large margin, the largest consumer of fuel in the country and accounts for roughly 12 to 13% of all fuel that is generated in the United States, that's made in the United States. So the Permian not only is the largest oil producing region in the world, but is the largest consumer of fuel in the United States. So what that means for us is a couple of different things. One is that there's this massive need within the Permian Basin for our products and services. And then on top of that, Texas, just based on its position as the leader of the world in terms of fuel, has a very experienced group of regulators and regulations that have been so far very refreshing to deal with. They know more about power than we do. And to build a business, there's no other state that we'd rather do it in Texas. And third, of course, just the overwhelming demand of power that is exploding throughout the country. And again, data centers and some of these other models in AI are centered in Texas. So there's an entire array of different reasons why the Permian Basin is a great place for us to operate. So essentially what we want to do today is kind of dive into the model that we have. And then I'm going to try to finish this up with 5 or 6 minutes of questions at the end. So feel free to submit them in the box on your screen. But our business is really centered around 4 simple principles. And the most important one in our point is that we are a modular business. And what that means is the modularity of our business is really what differentiates us from other companies. A typical company that's processing, let's say, plastic to make a compound to sell to chemical companies to make more plastic, these are hundreds of billions of dollars and 5 to 10 years of build time and regulations and things to get these up and running. And then it's very difficult to get the amount of feedstock that they need to power these projects. We're on the complete other side of that. Our sites are near the source. So in Midland, we are near the source. We actually have recently become an authorized vendor with the County of Midland. And it's very good for Midland because the county was picking up tires and putting them in a safe, putting them in a landfill or storing them and then reloading them and on and off trucks. And the personnel and the wear and tear on their people was immense. With us, they deliver the tires directly to us. We give them a very good rate, and they pay us to take the tires. So again, the modularity of it is we get paid for our inputs, and then when we are up and running, we're creating our outputs, which are fuel, carbon black, syngas, steel, and carbon credits. They'll be sold within the Permian Basin. A typical oil rig consumes 3,000 gallons a day of fuel, 2,000 to 3,000. That's one day of one of our 15-ton units. So we have buyers lined up for the steel. We have buyers lined up for pretty much everything. So the modularity of it allows us to become profitable because we have 6 different revenue streams that come out of these products, and then we limit all logistics. So there's no shipping products. For example, Florida has experienced this massive growth over the last 4 or 5 years, but they don't have the infrastructure for the garbage, so they're running trucks 3 and 4 hours outside to find a place to dump it. With us, we don't have to pick up the feedstock. We don't have to pay for the feedstock. And then the products that we're selling are for the most part sold right in the Permian Basin, which leaves us with a very profitable business model. Obviously, it's very efficient as well. We are using AI to minimize costs of operation across the board, so we can do a lot with less. Specifically in our automated carbon credit creation patent. We have patent pending tech we're developing there, which essentially eliminates the human error in that process. So we'll be capturing data with sensors and videos, comparing that to an engine that knows what a carbon credit is. Carbon credit's created, and it's dropped in a digital wallet and can be bought and sold by companies on our platform, which is another entire revenue stream that we could also license out at some point. And then it's repeatable. So we're codifying everything. Again, Midland is the template. So as we build Midland and roll it out, as we codify that entire site, the next one that we will launch, which probably will be 3 or 4 sites within Texas alone initially, can be spun up much faster than this one is because the entire process has been codified. There's 3,000 active landfills roughly in the United States. There's 5,000 data centers. We're also the data center capital of the world, and the amount of power needed there is just tremendous. So the modularity of it, the profitability, it's very efficient and it's very repeatable. So the modularity side to it, again, is low cost of the logistics because we're on-site. Deployment eliminates all the transportation overhead on both the inputs and the outputs. It's highly profitable based on that model, plus the fact that we have 6 different revenue streams, and it's highly scalable. We're essentially taking the project that we are building out in Midland and just repeating it in other markets. So relative to Midland, just for people who have been there, it's been a long journey to get here. 2026 is going to be an exciting year for us. We passed through USMCA, Border Patrol and Customs in December. We were approved actually in late November. Bulk of our equipment was received in late December. Our lead engineer arrived in Midland in, I think it was January 12th. Site was finished, design, and the layout was done in January and February. We're now, we announced at that point we had a 90-day build to commissioning from when the engineer arrived. That puts us in mid-April. Now, again, I'd love to give you an exact date on stuff. We're working as fast as we can. There are a bunch of variables that we don't control, so we're doing the best we can. But we really think we're pretty confident that mid-April we should have this up and running. We're hoping to do that sooner, but we're deep into it right now. And on a go-forward basis, we'll keep everybody informed on milestones and actual achievements as we launch this out, when things are finished, when the site is in place, where we're at in that process, so everybody knows. So that's the modularity side to it. The AI is fairly obvious. I think by now everybody's probably using AI every day of the week, as I am. But we deploy AI agents across all layers of the business to help to reduce the cost. It gives us the ability to do things we could have never done 5 years ago as a small company. And using AI in the automation of carbon credits and also blockchain verification with NFTs. And I think that's really one of the perfect uses of NFTs, the ability to create an immutable receipt that can't be changed, that houses all that data that is what a carbon credit is, in a way that there was no human interaction, really improves the kind of provincial compliance of that asset, which has been the big problem in that space with institutional grade carbon credits. So that's something we're very very excited about, and we're very AI centric. Pillar 3 is the 6 revenue streams. So this is mostly related to tires, because the first phase of this business, we have an endless supply of tires. We have roughly 90 tons of tires on the property now. We're ready to roll, just waiting for this final installation of the machine. So I'll walk through these relatively quick, but we don't know which one's going to be our primary revenue stream right now. We think it's going to be tire-derived oil, which we generate roughly 3,000 gallons of oil per day. Now, for that oil to become road diesel, it would have to be refined further to get the sulfur content down lower. So we have multiple buyers for it out of the gates, which is what we're focusing on. Our business right now is obviously the quickest path to revenue is where we're focusing on, and then we'll increase that and refine it as we go forward. But we're talking about roughly now, I'm talking in terms of 15 tons. As I mentioned in the press release a little while ago, we built our foundation out to support 30 tons because we will be adding that second 15-ton machine very quickly after the first is up and running. But obviously 100% of our focus right now is getting the first 15 tons live. So these numbers I'm going to give you are based on 15 tons. So it's roughly 3,000 gallons per day of the oil. The syngas that's generated from the process will be used to power the machine. So roughly the first hour we'll need an alternative fuel, which will be propane. And then once we have enough of the syngas built up, we'll be using the syngas to power the entire machine. Syngas can also be used to power turbines to generate power later on, which really becomes an interesting part of our model when you start thinking about the data center need and the craving for power across the country right now. On the input side, that's the feedstock. Our model is essentially free or better. Right now, we're being paid for most of this feedstock that we receive from the county and others. In certain cases, when we're cleaning up a market or we're helping out an area, we will just take the feedstock for free, but we don't pay for any feedstock at all. Carbon credits, and when this process is also, hopefully we'll be receiving that patent in 2026. And once that patent is done and it is launched and this technology is rolled out on this machine, we'll then have the ability to license that tech to other companies. And there's a couple different interesting ways we think we can do that. We've got some interested parties already that are fascinated by it and are looking at ways to use it. Fifth one is the tire-derived steel. That's another interesting point, that some of these tires, mostly in the larger truck tires, the quality of steel is actually very high grade. So we have a lot of buyers lined up for the steel, for all the steel already before we've even started here. And then the recovered carbon black, which again, this is a very interesting commodity that's being created from the tires. So the initial quality of the carbon black may not have a ton of value. We'll know more about that when it's tested. But then it can be refined to make it very valuable. So the carbon black could be as low as $250 a ton, or it could be $1,500 to $2,000 a ton. So we're going to be focused. We are focused on that already. And once we're processing, we're going to decide, look at the economics and see if it's worth it to pelletize it or refine it to get the higher numbers for carbon black. But those are our 6 revenue streams. I think they're very they diversify the company, and they protect us against cycles of oil and gas and different things, because we've got these 6 separate streams, which is very unique. And then the 4th pillar, and this is the most important part of the whole business, is the ability to replicate it. So again, Midland's the model. So if we're successful in Midland, we'll have a very large and successful business going forward. And we're building a platform. It's not just a one-off. We have absolutely no desire to build one site in Midland and wrap this thing up. Every deployment that we launch, once the playbook is curated from in Midland, the opportunity going forward is massive. And again, I'm not one of these guys that sits there and throws giant numbers, say if we get 1%, we'll make a lot of money. But there are 3,000 landfills operating in the United States. We've had contact with 4 or 5 of them already, and we're not even operating. And then the U.S. data center, the United States is the largest data center market in the world, and it is expected to triple over the next few years. And again, that is a market that is just sucking up energy. I had a stat here I wanted to throw to everybody just to kind of give some perspective on the size of that market. Northern Virginia is the largest data center market in the country. In that market, the data centers are consuming 25% of the local electricity. And then I saw another stat where a single large language model, train one model, takes as much energy as it does to power an entire city. So you've got these, and this business is it's in the first inning. It's just getting going. So the opportunity to close that gap at the same time, divert all these assets that are currently just being buried on this set it and forget it kind of mentality and leave it for the next generation, is our main focus, right? So in every company, you want to know why you're doing what you're doing and where you're going to go and how you're going to get there. And for us, which I'll get to this next slide, which is very exciting, I'm going to just preface it by saying we're not saying that these are numbers we're going to achieve, but we're saying this is the path that we're operating under, and this is the model we have to get there. Whether you believe it or not, or whether we execute on it or not, that's all yet to be determined. So essentially, when you think of our business, we look at it over the next 3 to 5 years, and the question is, can we roll out 12 to 15 new locations? We 100% think that we can. Again, when Midland is proven out and is launched and is at full capacity, which again, when I say full capacity too, I'm saying that would be 60 tons, so double the capacity we have now. Our engineers have evaluated our site, in particular in Midland, it's 4 acres we have there. And they actually think we can handle a little bit more than that. But they're just being conservative, saying we have 60 tons, which is 4 of our machines per site. That generates roughly, again, there's some variables here on the cost and how much money we get out of these different assets. And then we are subject to, on the oil side, the ups and downs of the fuel markets. But roughly, we expect each site to generate an average revenue of $8 million. So if in the next 3 to 5 years we roll out 12 sites, which we expect to have the second one, up and running, provided Midland goes well, by the end of 2026. If you put a 10x investment, 12 sites at $8 million is roughly $100 million. If you 10x that, you're over $1 billion in revenue. So I've been in the public markets a very long time. I was a former stockbroker many years ago, and I've run a small hedge fund at a time. And anytime I heard somebody coming from basically zero to $1 billion market, there was a lot of, magic stuff that had to happen and lots of luck. With us, it's going to come down to Midland. If we see what comes out of Midland and the results are proven and they're in our filings, and when we prove this out, obviously there's going to be lots of problems like there are in any business, and we have to execute on all this. But if we do that for Midland, the model's the same. Everywhere we go, the tire is the same tire. Everywhere we go, the fuel is the same, the steel is the same, the credits are the same, the carbon black is the same. And there's massive buyers for this stuff all over the country, and it's only growing. The size of power demand in our country, for other reasons, was already growing with housing issues. But when you throw AI, blockchain, EVs all on top of that. You've just got this massive demand that's not going away anytime soon. So we have what we believe, again, yet to be proven out. It's not proven yet. But we have a very simple model, we feel. And when I say simple, I mean if we can execute Midland, it's rinse and repeat, right? So we did 3 or 4 sites in Texas. We've already got 3 or 4. The other 3 or 4 we've talked about are not in Texas. We're in very early stage discussions on sites and looking at the regulatory regime and things like that. But that's where we want to go, right? So we got to know where we want to go and why we want to do it. And why we want to do it is if we are successful in Midland and all these other sites, we are diverting thousands and thousands of tons of tires out of landfills and creating a truly circular process where those assets are sold back to tire companies, sold as fuel, sold as steel, and can be reused within the economy, which touches on each one of those different markets on the 6 revenue streams that we have. So that's the summary. I want to wrap it here with a simple kind of summary of Midland. So again, Midland we are expecting April 15th is our target. As we get closer, we will give you many updates between now and then, and they'll all be milestone based as we move this forward, as the machine is put on the foundation, as we kind of move everything forward. We'll keep everybody involved and let them know how we're doing because we think this is really the start of the whole business, and it'll go quickly, in our opinion, on second sites, on second machines once this first one is up and operational, and we expect that to happen by mid-April. And that's the extraordinary lessons. We will let you know. So what I'd like to do now is just kind of use the last few minutes here for any questions. Again, if anybody has any questions, you can ask them in the box on the side of the screen. We've also, feel free, if there's anyone listening, that we've had lots of outreach from other energy companies, landfills, just industry partners. Our email address, our general email address is ir@wec.eco. My personal one is sg@wec.eco. Website obviously is www.wec.eco. But you can reach us there. This presentation will be uploaded tomorrow. So I'd love to any questions anyone has, feel free to reach out to me and let us know. So first question I have is okay. I've got a question about the ramp up with Midland, when we're going to be starting, and do we have a specific date? And we don't have an exact date just because there's a few variables. I will say this: we have the entire site layout is done. We've got the contractor for the foundation that is being started. There was some snow and bad weather in Midland in February, so we're a little bit behind on that. But that is all starting now. And again, we'll keep you. We're going to do between now is March 5th and mid-April. We'll be doing milestone-based updates on a fairly regular basis. I would also say, please follow us on our Twitter feed predominantly, because we will post there quick summaries and from the site as this is being developed. And then I would say in May or June we're going to have an investor day once the site has been up, it's tested and running. And I would invite anybody and everybody who has the ability to come down and spend a day with us and get to see the site and and take a look around. Next question is related to: do we have any plans for dilution of the shares? No. In matter of fact, in 2025, we didn't issue any shares of stock. We did some strategic private placements with friends and family type deals. We've now gotten into taking on some more debt. We've been very aware of the public markets, and my goal has always been to make sure that we're all in line with the shareholders. So there's nobody in our company that has preferred shares or anything else. We're all in common shares, and we live or die together. So there'll be some dilution as we need money to build this, but it's going to be managed and minimal with a high focus on that. Where do I see the stock by the end of the year? I can't comment on share prices, so I don't obviously can't comment on that kind of stuff, on where the price of the stock would be or could be in the next year. Again, it looks like that's just about all the questions that we have at this time. So I'd say Anything else that you think of when you watch the replay that was missed? The IR email on the site, you can shoot it there. You can email me directly at sg@wec.eco. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining us today, taking some time out with us on this ride. We feel like the rubber's about to meet the road here, so to speak, in the coming weeks as we launch this, hopefully on or before April 15th. So again, thanks again. Follow us on all of our sites and have a great day.